point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week, number 304, our 304th
That's the number I have,
episode.
yep.
And we are recording this on the 14th of February.
Happy St. Valentine's Day.
How about that? And what we're reporting here is news of the last week for energy and climate change. And I go to the web every day, find what news I can. Each news article that I find interesting, I do a 50-word or so synopsis, a link to the original article. I put together 10 to 15 of these every day, usually 15, and post them at a blog, which you can visit. And the blog is geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. There's a calendar there. We'll try to keep you apprised of the dates for the stories so that you can click on the date and find the story most conveniently. We will be starting on Thursday, the 7th of February, 2019. And
well, some of these stories, as I usually mention about now, are quite interesting and worth following up on.
Absolutely.
And some of them, again, as I've mentioned in the past, we could do a whole show on.
Absolutely.
So I'll try and alert you to some of the better ones so you can pick them up and follow them up on your own.
The best of the best.
The best of the best. Yes.
Of the blog.
The best of the best.
Okay, should we get going?
Yeah, I think we ought to get started.
Okay, we have
here.
a picture here of Chicago, Illinois, and I can tell you that is looking south because that's the way.
Because the lake's on the west.
Because the lake
on the left, I mean.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting. It's got a beach.
It's got a beach. Well, it's got to walk along.
I don't know. Can you walk into a swimming beach from downtown Chicago?
I don't know. Yeah. I honestly don't know. When I was a little kid, I lived near Chicago. Lived in New Hampshire, across the river from Brattleboro, but I also lived in Chicago, near Chicago.
At the same time?
Well, yeah, sort of, almost. We went back and forth, and I'm a little bit familiar with Lake Michigan. Not as much as my daughter. She got her master's degree at the University of Chicago. She is just finishing her doctorate at the University of Glasgow.
Good for her.
Yeah,
good for her. Huh?
Anyway, this is an item from PV Tech that we have for you.
100% renewable energy plan for Illinois.
Illinois.
Including 6 gigawatts of solar.
Illinois is Illinois. Illinois State Representative Will Davis announced the, quote, Path to 100 Act, end quote, introducing legislation that would bring the state to 100% clean energy mix. It builds on the efforts of the Future Energy Jobs Act, which was a Illinois legislation, I believe, to spur renewable energy deployment across the state.
Well, this act is pretty comprehensive, and it includes a measure to drive procurement of 6 gigawatts of new utility-scale PV power. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
6.5 gigawatts of new wind power, and 7.5 gigawatts of new residential, commercial, and community-scale solar. So we got the utility-scale PV, and we got residential-scale PV, and we got wind.
And we've got a lot of capacity there.
There's a lot. This is going to make a difference.
It was 6 gigawatts of utility solar and how much of residential?
7.5.
So we're talking 13.5 gigawatts of solar. New solar, which is probably the equivalent of about 4 large nuclear reactors.
I'll give you that.
And then in addition to that, we're talking about how much of wind?
6.5 gigawatts of wind.
So, which is the equivalent of perhaps 3 nuclear reactors, 2 or 3. So we're talking about a lot of power here, and nicely, those two will balance each other to a very large extent.
Absolutely. You know, when the sun isn't shining, the wind is
blows.
blowing.
That's right. The
And
wind,
it is true because you get more wind at night generally, and
More wind
you
in
got
the
less
winter.
sun at night.
more wind in the winter.
More
Yes, there is less sun at night. Not as much sun at night. Okay, you got more on that?
I think that's all we
Just
got
going
on
to
that
continue
one.
suffering from your cold.
Clearing.
Don't
clearing it
worry,
up.
people. You won't catch Tom's cold over the television.
I
Okay.
think the cold is no longer catchable.
Yeah.
I'm just getting rid of some of the residue.
Yeah.
But we
Okay.
got another interesting one here. On Capitol Hill, new calls for rapid action on climate change. And this is from CNN.
Yeah, this is from CNN, and this is separate from the Green New Deal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This
So-
is, yeah. Which we'll be talking about again.
We will be talking about it, and more and more and more as time goes on. President
By the
Donald
way,
Trump.
I'll let you finish.
Okay. President Donald Trump did not mention climate change or environmental work in his State of the Union address. He also, by the way, didn't mention coal.
That's interesting.
You know, he goes into these
Yeah,
things and
yeah.
says he digs coal. Well, he stopped mentioning coal. Maybe it's because he doesn't want to be portrayed as a loser, because the coal jobs are not that he
I don't
won't.
think there's much he could do about
no,
that.
there's not much he can do. But on the following day, the U.S. Natural Resources Committee had its first hearing in 8 years that focused on climate change.
Which is an interesting thing.
Well,
8 years, yeah.
Under the Republicans, they didn't have hearings on climate change.
Yeah.
Under the Republican control of the House. So,
Well, there's a nice 2-minute video here that
Yeah.
I recommend you look at.
Yep.
And CNN always has some little 2-minute videos and stuff. CNN's usually a good site.
yeah.
Well, Trump has often expressed doubts that climate change is real or largely created by humans.
He'll find out.
In Tuesday's address, he talked about the growth of the oil and gas industry, a major contributor to greenhouse gas. But the committee chairman, whose name is Raul M. Grijalva, I think that's how you pronounce it, said in an opening the hearing, putting our heads in the sand puts people's lives at risk and our nation is in jeopardy.
Yes.
And this is a takeaway. Extreme weather events have become more frequent and more damaging.
And this year, the oceans of the world, which are the things that drive, their warmth that drives hurricanes, are the hottest they've ever been. So I'm expecting...
And the highest.
Yeah, I'm expecting that unless we have winds that discourage hurricanes, because certain wind shear, for example, makes it hard for hurricanes to develop. Unless we have that, we're going to have a really super hurricane season, and we may have one even with otherwise bad meteorological conditions. Anyway, that was from CNN.
Well, we got a picture coming up.
We do indeed. We go from one skyline to another. This one is
That's
a
kinda
skyline.
nice.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of nice.
Sydney Harbour, and that's Sydney in Australia. And this is from ABC News, which is the Australian Broadcast Company news.
Yeah, not the American Broadcasting Company. So it's a good site.
It is.
Well, it's probably their nationwide, their national
Yeah,
top
it is.
site.
Yeah.
So UN warns world on track to breach a 3-degree sea rise by 2100. That isn't good news.
No, it's not. The UN report said the world was on track to have global warming temperatures rise 3 degrees Celsius, which is what, 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit roughly, by 2100.
Yeah.
As record levels of man-made greenhouse gas emissions, mainly from burning fossil fuels, are trapping more heat in the Earth's atmosphere. The increase is considered clearly dangerous. And you know, I want to mention the greenhouse gas emissions trapping heat and the atmosphere temperatures of the climatic temperatures increasing was predicted about, I don't know, 120 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the work on this has been developing for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not this is not something that some socialist made up in order to trap the United States into.
You mean it's not a hoax?
I don't think this is a hoax, no. I think there is a hoax, but the existence...
It's in the White House.
It's in the White House, I'm afraid, yes. Okay.
Well, there's a couple of quick takeaways here. We've
Yep.
mentioned this one before, and I'll mention it again. 20 of the past 22 years have been the hottest on record.
Yes.
2018 was the 4th warmest year ever, behind 2016, 2015, and 2017. Something's happening, guys.
Yeah.
Weather extremes last year included wildfires in California, wildfires in Greece, drought in South America, floods in India. Queensland and Tasmania are threatened by floods and bushfires, not in the same places.
There was a flood in Queensland, which had been in a terrible drought only a few months ago.
Yeah.
And a river that is normally pencil thin is now 37 miles across.
Well, the impacts are already being felt.
Yeah.
Coastal flooding, heat waves, intense precipitation. And this is a bad takeaway. The Himalayas could lose 2/3 of its glaciers if its temperatures rose by 2 degrees C by 2100. And we're on that path right now.
We're on a worse path than that.
And the Himalayas, the rivers in the Himalayas, feed something like a quarter of the world's population.
Yeah. They provide water for
the Ganges comes from there.
billions of people.
All over Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
the water comes from the Himalayas.
Yeah. By the way, my brother invented a filter
Yeah.
that the nation of Bangladesh tested, and they've got terrible problems in Bangladesh because about 1/3 of the well water is laced with arsenic, and people are dying because of that. And the alternative,
The whole country's a swamp anyhow.
and the Ganges River is the worst polluted in the world.
Yeah.
And it's mainly polluted by bacteria. Anyway, the filter is something that could be made by any village potter for about $3 and will last until somebody breaks it. You can backflush it and reuse it. And they put water from the Ganges River in there, and when the water came through the filter, they were unable to find living bacteria in it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had a bacteria
Now
count
that
of
sounds like something
zero.
significant.
Well, it is, but it's one of those things that he has international patents on it. But how do you enforce a patent when the infringer might be a village potter who's
How do you enforce a patent when the infringer might be a billionaire?
Yeah, well, it's easier to enforce it against a billionaire.
Yeah,
but
you can try anyhow.
But if you're going to go after a village potter, you're going to have to go after basically all of them. Anyway.
By the way, if you care to look this one up, there's a heck of a nice picture of the Himalayas and its
Yes.
rivers and its glaciers, and
Yes.
you can see what's going on.
Yes. Okay, we're up to Friday, February 8th, and we have an item here from CNN.
And this is the first. Today we're going to talk about the Green
New Deal.
And you'll be hearing us and others talking about it.
Yep.
Ocasio-Cortez and Markey unveil Green New Deal resolution.
Two Democrats, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Senator Edward Markey of Massachusetts, unveiled their Green New Deal resolution, which outlines the definition of the massive piece of legislation they hope will tackle issues related to the United States' role in climate change. And I have the stuff. You can't go through the news these days without it coming across the Green New Deal. At least not relative.
Well, it's
to climate change.
very newsworthy
It
right
is,
now.
but there is an enormous amount of misinformation about this.
Well, nobody knows really what it is yet.
Well, they unveiled
They're
it.
starting to tell us.
But the thing is, this is not the resolution that was unveiled is not a recipe for success in climate change and other things.
It's basically a plan to achieve that recipe.
Exactly. It's a resolution saying we're going to plan to do this.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And so if somebody tells you that it's way off the money, it's way off the mark, it's impossible to achieve, they're talking through their hats.
Well, a lot of it's political talk.
A lot of it is political talk, but I was surprised to read that there were Republicans who were supporting this.
Well, there's a 3-minute video in this. It's called "A Revolution in the Way We Live," and it's worth watching.
Yes.
And
now Mitch McConnell is taking this to a vote in the Senate.
Yeah.
Because he wants to
squelch it.
He wants to squelch it, and he wants to expose all those people who are supporting it. But today I was reading about a senator, a Republican senator, who I don't know if I should even name her because I only read the one report, and these reports are sometimes wrong. She'll be in our news if I come across confirmation of it. But she was supporting the resolution.
She was, huh?
Yeah, as a Republican.
Well, we're going to be talking about Alexandria again.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things I'll mention about the key points
Yes.
of this Green New Deal
Yeah.
thus far, because it's
Yes.
always subject to change.
Yeah.
Achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions.
By 2030.
Well, yeah, I mean, secure clean air, water, healthy food, and a sustainable environment.
Yeah.
Good high-paying jobs. 100% power from clean, renewable, and zero-emission sources. Mitigate and manage the long-term adverse health, economic, and other effects of pollution and climate change, which we're avoiding.
Yes.
You know, we're really not even mentioning that at all. And finally, restore and protect threatened, endangered, and fragile ecosystems.
Yes. And part of the problem that we've got, I think, I just realized it's more than just money. This is a political thing. The people who have been supporting what they call a free market economy, which I don't like because I don't think what the economy they're supporting really is free.
Well, of course it's not. It's free for me, but not for thee.
Yeah, right. The problem is that the free market economy that has been the product of the thinking of Ayn Rand and people like that does not have a way to support protecting the environment built into it.
Not at all.
So,
not at all.
If there's an environmental issue, then the free market economy has failed.
Yeah.
And if people are dying because the free market economy is failing and they're dying needlessly, then the free market economy should be abolished. I don't like the idea of people dying for political reasons, but I'm afraid that's what's happening.
You mentioned this was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yep.
This is her big thing. And since we're going to talk about her again, why don't we see what she looks like?
Well, okay. There she is.
Well, she's not,
well, it's not me.
She's not there yet, but she's coming.
She's getting there.
Here
there she is. I've always been a sucker for women with really dark eyes. But I don't know.
Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. What's in it? Well, we just told you what's in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what is in it?
Why don't I read this?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. While calling for an elimination of pollution and greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture, transportation, manufacturing, and construction, the resolution contains no mention of bans or regulation as other plans have described.
Well, that's significant.
It is. Instead, it focuses on a range of green investments.
Well, again, this is a CNN thing, and again, there's a video worth watching.
Yep.
It's, as a matter of fact, there's several videos worth watching.
Yep.
And it describes a 10-year economic mobilization.
Yep.
That's what this is about. That would phase out fossil fuel use and overhaul the nation's infrastructure while building whole new layers into the existing social safety net. And we're talking massive public investment in wind and solar, zero-emission vehicles, high-speed rail, energy-efficient buildings, smart power grids.
In other words, we're talking about employing a lot of people.
No way you can do this without it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a number of people might lose their jobs, such as the people who mine coal. They might lose their jobs.
Yeah, they might.
They might. I was thinking about this. There's a picture that we're going to have on the show, as a matter of fact. Well, I'll mention it when we get there. It's about what can coal miners do. Okay, should we move on?
Well, or take away from here, and this is a big bugaboo. The cost of all of this and where the money to pay for it all will come from remains unclear.
However, I read a very interesting article about the cost of switching to 100% renewable, and the author of that article, which I think was in Forbes, I don't remember, said basically it will pay for itself.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I support the ideas. I think they're all pretty good ones.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll move a little closer to home here.
Our next item is from Renewables Now.
Vineyard Wind fails to qualify for bidding in a New England power auction.
The federal energy...
Just a matter of timing.
Yeah, I think it is. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission took no action on Vineyard Wind LLC's request for a waiver, an emergency motion to put off New England's annual power capacity auction. The developer has failed to qualify in time for the competition. They wanted to delay the competition so they could qualify
so they could
for
bid.
it.
Yeah.
This
Which
just means they're
probably was a good idea. It would have saved somebody some money.
Yeah, but they're just going to have to wait for a later date.
Yeah, they're still going to be generating the power. They're still going to be looking for markets. It's going to be cheaper than some power.
Yep.
It's going to displace some coal and some oil.
Yep.
So it will work.
Okay.
Well, we got an interesting picture coming up
We
here.
do, and this next item is a very interesting item, and this we are up on Saturday, February 9th, and this is a couple of researchers who are working on a special battery, and what's the title here, Tom?
Another way to power electric cars, refillable technology.
Imagine that. You go to a service station, you get a refill. This is from Clean Technica. Researchers at Purdue University say they've come up with a new way of powering electric cars, which they call refillable technology. It uses one liquid electrolytes and a sacrificial anode that is replaced at 3,000-mile intervals. The technology has been tested and is being commercialized.
Well,
Now,
you know, they're talking about new technology.
yeah,
Back in 1850, when all we had was telegraph,
yeah,
they were run by batteries.
yes,
And they had a cell there called a crowfoot cell. Okay, and it used liquid electrolyte and a sacrificial anode
wow,
that was shaped like a bird's foot.
okay,
And the electrolyte was copper sulfate.
okay,
And when it was finished, it got less blue. You threw
Yes.
it away.
yes,
And you change the copper, you change the zinc crowfoot. It's exactly the same thing.
You know, this may have been what my grandfather had in his farm in Nebraska.
It's highly likely that it is.
You know,
Yeah.
that was like 1900. It was a little after the time that you're talking about. But you know, my uncle Charlie, who grew up on this farm, told me that one of the guys who worked on the farm was a specialist who changed the battery solution, and that's
Okay.
that's what
probably
they did.
exactly what he had.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was. Anyway, these guys have got this thing where you have an electrolyte, and as the electrolyte is used up, you go to a
throw it
service
away.
station like a gas station, and you pump
new
it out,
stuff.
and you get a new one. And then once every 3,000 miles, you have to change your
You
anode,
change your crow's foot.
which is kind of like, you know, when you need gasoline, you go to a gas station and pump it into the car. And every 3,000 miles, you need another oil change.
It seems a little bit better than waiting 3 or 4 hours to recharge your battery.
It seems that way. I don't know that this is going to wind up being the greatest thing in town, but
For some people, it will be. But
I
for
think
other people, I mean, for the guy who comes home and he plugs in his car overnight, it's
Yep.
not going to change things at all.
Yep. Okay, should we go on?
Should we go on? I
Should we
think
go
we
on?
should. Yeah,
We
got
have an
another one
item
coming
here
up
from Solar Industry.
Sunrun wins milestone solar storage contract in ISO New England auction.
I thought this was a really interesting article. Sunrun Incorporated has won a bid to deliver home solar and batteries as a source of energy capacity to grid operator ISO New England.
It's just certainly thinking out of left field.
Wow. This is the first time that home solar and battery storage has participated directly in a U.S. wholesale capacity market, the company claims.
It's very interesting that they should even conceive of this.
It's like...
Because this could open up a whole new door.
Oh, yeah. This is home solar and batteries that are competing with natural gas burning power plants
Yeah,
on auctions.
yeah. Well, what Sunrun is doing is they're packaging these.
Yes.
They're saying, you know, we got 50 of these things over here. Now they're in this auction.
And this is what we can deliver.
Yeah.
Okay. You got any more on that, or?
There's a little bit here. This
Okay.
signals a transformational shift. This came from it.
Yeah.
Away from the traditional centralized energy model toward a system powered by local clean energy.
Yeah.
So this is a step in the right direction.
Yep.
And it's only a start. in this particular bid, it's only 20 megawatts of capacity. It's a drop in the bucket.
It's not a
but
lot.
It's a foot in the door.
It's a foot in the door. It's more than enough to power a town like Brattleboro.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you have it. Should we go on now?
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
can. I think
Our
we
next
can. We got
item
another
is from
picture here.
Clean Technica, and the picture is available, so you can put it up. Here's some guys in the field working on a drone. What do you got for a title?
Well, the company is called Drone Seed.
Yes.
And the article is about how Drone Seed plants trees from the sky. And what you got a picture there is a seed planting drone.
Yeah. Drones, seeds, and fires. How Drone Seed plants trees from the sky. Drone Seed, oh, I'm sorry, you were going to read that. That's okay. I won't inflict that on the people again. Drone Seed is on a mission to make reforestation scalable and is making progress on that goal. The company has signed a contract with the Nature Conservatory. Conservancy.
Yep.
Nature Conservancy, the world's largest land conservation organization, my tongue is tied, to work on rangeland restoration.
Well, if you've got the time, look this one up. It's a long article, but
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
It is.
Trees and revegetation are the most effective method we have to resequester carbon.
Right.
Okay, we can achieve up to a quarter of the global emissions reductions called for in a Paris Agreement by planting trees.
Yeah.
Duh!
Yeah, right.
That's according to the Nature Conservancy.
Yep.
But, and here's the rub, manually planting trees is labor intensive
Is it ever?
and difficult to implement to replant in post-fire environments.
Yes.
So the problem is the best tree planters can only plant 2 acres a day.
Wow. That sounds
And
like
you got a
hard work.
forest fire, it's going to take you a long time to replant. So this is an attempt to overcome that.
Right. And of course, they can plant things in addition to the tree seeds. They can plant ground cover of various kinds.
Well, they certainly could. I mean, what they're doing here is they're not planting seedlings.
Yes.
They're planting these little packets of seeds and nourishment already ready for the seed to take root and go.
Wow.
You know, so they're thinking about this.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, and let's hope it works.
Yep. We're up to Sunday, February 10th.
Already?
Already.
Electric airplane maker Pipistrel, which
Yes.
is from Slovenia, by the way.
What?
It's from Slovenia.
Okay.
Whoever heard of Slovenia?
I have.
Pipistrel teams up with Honeywell to give us an autonomous eVTOL,
Yep.
electrical vertical takeoff and landing. And there's a picture of one of them. Well, that's the next one coming up, I guess.
Picture? Oh, the picture is on with the next article. Honeywell says it signed a memorandum of understanding with Pipistrel, and the companies will together develop urban air mobility solutions. They will combine their resources to develop an autonomous Pipistrel eVTOL. You've already.
I got a
described
picture of it, but I don't think you do.
I don't.
Yeah, I think I just left it
There
in
are
here. and it
there
shouldn't.
are interesting pictures.
There's some
of
very
these.
interesting pictures in there.
And it's not just this pair developing it. You know, there was an interesting picture of one that I think came from Rolls-Royce, which was an air taxi, as I recall.
Well, I think Rolls-Royce is also trying to come up with the fastest VTOL.
They might be.
And it looks like a World War II fighter plane.
Yeah, well. Anyway, is that all for that one?
Well, I got a little bit of a takeaway here.
Okay.
You read Did you read about Honeywell signing a memorandum of understanding?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so the takeaway is here. Honeywell defines urban air mobility as on-demand and automated passenger or cargo carrying air transportation.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's
Yeah.
it. On demand.
We're talking about delivery of goods and things
people.
and people. And you know, when I was a little kid, I remember my father talking about how when he was a kid, he thought we'll have personal planes and people will have, you know, the ability to do this. And it occurred to him later that the number of planes that we would have would be so great that avoiding each other in the sky would be a problem.
Big deal, big problem. Right?
And one of the things about these electric aircraft is that they can have onboard detection of other aircraft around them, and their computers can maintain safe
Oh yeah, they're
distances.
safer. Basically,
So they could be very safe, even though there would be a lot of them going on. And it sounds to me like we could have noisy cities with
Well,
these things.
already Amazon is experimenting with this type of thing to deliver packages in certain urban areas.
Right.
They got a drone come right to your home and drop it on your doorstep.
Yep, and then crash into your door as you open it up. Oh well. Okay, we're up to scienceblog.com article.
In this case, we do have a picture.
And we have a picture here, which is
and
kind
it's not
of
a very
distressing.
good picture. I mean, it's not a very nice picture.
It's a high quality picture of a bad event.
That's a good way to describe it.
Okay.
Insect pests on conifers in eastern Canadian forests are moving north. They're the same things that have just been detected here in Vermont.
Yes.
Because there are Midwestern things that are moving east and
they're moving north. The spruce budworm, the main defoliator of conifer trees in eastern North American boreal forests, is spreading northward, and climate factors seem to trigger and synchronize major outbreaks. These results are revealed by analysis in Quebec. Now, what we're looking at in that picture is what's called a ghost forest. And I've seen...
Yep, that's what they call it.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of these ghost forests where you look out and you see rolling hills in those southern Appalachians where the hills are all red. They look like fall colors, but it isn't fall.
It isn't fall,
and it's
right.
not deciduous plants. These are conifers whose
they're
leaves
dying.
are red because they're dying. And then what happens is after the red, they look like they do here, and then all the leaves fall out. You have sticks sticking up in the air. And then what happens is if it's bad enough, and it's probably bad enough here, the wind blows through these bare trees and distresses the soil, blows the leaves away, so the soil gets wrecked. And not even the animals that live underground can survive this kind of thing. And
this is not good news for anybody.
No, and the spruce budworm is just one. The adelgids, the woolly adelgids.
Another one.
There's a.
That's here.
It's here, and there's two different kinds. And among these insects, you will find that every conifer in Vermont is going to get attacked by somebody. And I don't know how we can avoid these things because they're tiny. The hemlock woolly adelgid is already in all of the towns in southern Vermont. What's the other woolly adelgid called? It's a spruce woolly adelgid. It's a name like that, and that has been found in every county in Vermont. And the thing that is holding these back is that we're still getting winters that are cold enough to prevent them from spreading. But
that's changing.
That's changing, and I've seen defoliation of the type that we're seeing in that picture as near as Irving, Massachusetts, which is, 10 miles from here?
It isn't very far.
It's not very far. And, it's sad to see this happening, but we've got to be acting on the root cause of this because we're not going to get rid of these woolly adelgids by spraying.
This article has some maps.
Yes.
And it shows the effect of these pests for the various different years in the last century.
Yeah.
And it's not a steady rise in one direction or another. It comes and it goes.
It comes and it goes.
There was some bad years back in 1912.
Yeah.
1915.
Yep.
Pretty good years up until 1976.
And then bad years.
And then bad years.
Yeah, and the forests recover. These are like the lynxes and the lemmings.
Well, something else is going to grow there eventually.
Yes, but
eventually
they don't kill off. This particular pest doesn't kill off all of the trees. It only kills off.
Picks a certain group of them.
It picks the weakest trees to start, and then it moves from those to the trees that are nearby. But if you have a very healthy stand of trees, they will repel these. things, and so the populations of them crash after they're done.
In Quebec, they're mostly spruces that are dying.
Yeah. Should we move on?
Yeah, we got another one. This is an interesting one.
This
Again, eVTOLs.
Yep, this is from Clean Technica. What do you got for title?
eVTOL aircraft are getting closer to flying you than you can imagine.
Yeah, we are witnessing one of the most incredible moments in the history of transportation as we move away from fossil fuels to electricity, increasing our freedom to innovate for greater mobility. Air taxis are being tested now. This is where the picture of the Rolls-Royce air taxi was, and the eVTOLs are coming to market. They're actually starting to appear.
They're being tested now, and they're coming to market, and you can even buy one.
Yeah.
They're on the market now. You can buy them.
Okay, we should move on.
There's a lot of pictures in this article.
There's a lot of
if you
pictures in
like
this
pictures of airplanes, this is a good article to look up.
Yeah, this is a good one. I had a hard time picking the picture I wanted to use for the blog. Okay, we're up to Monday, February 11th, and we have a picture here of a coal
got
loader,
another picture here.
which is, yeah, okay.
Energy from coal to shrink at 1.25 gigawatts every year, according to S&P Global.
This is from etenergyworld.com. Energy from coal will shrink at 1.25 gigawatts every year as solar would continue to expand with a deployment forecast of 20 gigawatts per year, according to the International Energy Agency's Sustainable Development Scenario. S&P Global Platts and Analytics said in a recent report. And you know what? I don't believe coal capacity is going to shrink by 1.25 gigawatts in the slightest. I don't believe that. I think it's going to go far faster than that. Far, far faster.
Well, it's economics now.
It's
It started
economics.
out as being green, but now it's economics.
Yep. Did we have that article about the TVA? We do. We'll get to that, and we can explain why the economics are bad for coal when we get to that article.
Okay.
That's a deal.
I think we can do that one.
Okay.
Okay, so
our next item is from CNN, and this was distressing.
I'm just reading if I had any notes about that one.
Oh, okay.
Only 4 gigawatts of coal capacity worldwide, global, has been added in 2018.
Yeah.
That's global.
Global, 4
not a lot.
gigawatts. That's the
And
equivalent
a lot of that
4
stuff's
large.
been in line for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've only got 17 megawatts in the United States that's under development. I don't think that's ever going to be developed. Okay, our next item is from CNN.
Study says massive insect decline could have catastrophic environmental impact.
This is really bad.
Well, this is scary.
It is scary.
This is scary. So you don't have mosquitoes, you got something else.
Yeah.
And in this article, or in one like it, it talks about the prevalence of bugs on your windshield.
Yeah,
It's
it
diminishing.
Does. It's diminishing. Insect populations are declining precipitously worldwide due to pesticide use and other factors with a potentially catastrophic effect on the planet, a study has warned. Insect biomass is declining by a staggering 2.5% per year worldwide. That is, this is bird food that's disappearing.
Yeah, and the birds are starting to eat each other.
Yeah. And, the business of you drive around at night, you undoubtedly remember driving at night and having to stop to clean the windshield.
Yeah.
When you got gas, you always cleaned the windshield.
Absolutely.
I can remember driving at night and you could see the headlights of the car shining on the insects in front of you.
Yeah.
And you could hear them hitting the windshield.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd have killed fireflies. They'd be dead, but they'd still be glowing.
They'd still be glowing, yeah.
on the windshield, and that's all gone. And there are people who say, well, that's probably a good thing. I'm sorry, that's bird food, and the birds. This is all part of this is our agriculture is supported.
Everything's connected.
Everything is connected, and when you have that kind of decline, sooner or later it's going to hit human beings.
Well, what's particularly intensively causing the insect decline is habitat loss.
Yes.
Okay. Conversion to intensive agriculture and urbanization.
Yes.
Pollution from pesticides, and that's a biggie.
Biggie.
Okay, and fertilizers, as
Yep.
well as biological factors such as pathogens and introduced species and climate change.
Yeah, but you know, last summer
Yeah.
we had many more. The previous summer, I only saw 2 monarch butterflies. Now, it used to be that I'd see
You see a lot of them.
you'd see 2 monarch butterflies in any given morning at
Yeah,
least.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, it was 2 only in the entire
They're still
year.
around, but they're not as plentiful as
Last
they used to
summer, we had typically, if we went out and watched, we'd see 1 in any given day.
be. Yeah.
We had a lot of butterflies last summer. We had a lot of bees last summer. We had a lot of other pollinators last summer. And I think a large part of the reason for that, you walk through Brattleboro, and in places where people have gardens, where they plant decorative plants, milkweed is growing.
Yeah. That's
And
what these guys like.
they like that, and other things are being planted specifically for the purpose of keeping these insects alive. So, yeah,
Well, that's good.
okay.
You know, as a kid, milkweed was, that's milkweed. You got to pull it out of the ground.
Oh, it was awful.
And now, this is what these guys like.
It
You
is.
want monarchs,
Well, the
let
monarch
milkweed grow.
butterflies, that's all they.
That's all they eat.
Yeah.
What they
Okay.
just like.
We should move on though.
Well, we got another picture coming
We do,
up here.
and it's from
Not a good picture.
BDC, and we were talking about earlier about things that coal miners could do.
Now, that is a mountaintop removal in a process of happening.
Right, and if
They just blew the top off
they
that
blew the
mountain.
top off the mountain, and if you look all the way to the right of that picture, about a fifth of the way up from the bottom,
The
you
body
can see
of water.
you can see a very large piece of earth moving equipment. It's yellow there.
I can't even see it.
You can't. Well, it's there.
I'm sure it's there.
But anyway, this is the top of a mountain being demolished, and this has happened where they have blown the tops off mountains. And you've talked about the buttes in Kentucky or West Virginia.
Yeah.
And they blow the tops off. They've done this to 500 mountains in the Appalachians.
I can believe it.
And, you know, every one of those mountains is now topped by poor soil, growing stuff of no value. And there's not a lot you can do with those. But if you go into coal mining country and you hire those miners, they could put solar panels on the tops of those mountains.
That would make sense.
And plant pollinators, pollen plants.
Milkweed.
Milkweed, whatever. Plants under them that will support pollinators. And it would have a really interesting effect. And of course,
That would take some intelligence.
well,
Something seems to be missing there.
I think, you know, whoever replaces Mitch McConnell may. Anyway,
Well, they talk about the legacy of mining can be seen dotted along Appalachia's highways.
yes,
When the surface mines came in, that's when the water started changing.
yes,
Okay? This process is a type of mining known as mountaintop removal, which devastates the landscape and pollutes the waterways.
Yep.
Now, I can remember driving through some rural roads in West Virginia. You look on the side of the road, and there's a nice little stream there. You drive a few miles further, and that stream is all full of boulders, which came from the mountain
Yep.
on the side, which used to be a mountain, and now it's a plateau.
You know, we haven't read any of the standard stuff for this article. What's the title?
A toxic crisis in America's coal country.
This is from the BBC. At some of America's most controversial coal mines, companies use huge amounts of explosives to blow the tops off mountains. Isolated communities say this poisons their water, and now people must decide if they will fight back against an industry they have relied on for generations for employment.
Well, that's basically what this article's about.
And
it's a tough call, you know.
It is, but
all these guys have known is coal mining.
Yeah.
And coal mining's been a good job.
But they've got to drive 10 miles to get water so they can wash things, so they can cook,
Yeah.
and to drink.
So it's a very mixed.
Because the wells that they've got are polluted.
Yep.
Okay, we are up to Tuesday, February 12th.
The feds are spending $48 million to move his village, but he doesn't want to go.
CNN gave us this. Because of rising seas, subsidence, and erosion, 98% of Ile de Jean Charles in Louisiana is gone. The federal government is moving the remaining population, 20 or so families, at a cost of $45 million. It is just the first of such moves. They're going to have to do this with other communities. We talked about this about a year ago.
Oh, we've talked about it several times.
And
Yeah,
this-
it's happening in Alaska. It's big time happening in Louisiana, which is
Louisiana.
what this is about.
Yep.
They have to move. There's nothing left.
There's nothing they can do. And it's not just land subsidence. The sea is rising.
The land is disappearing.
The land is disappearing. NASA has measured ocean level rise over the entire world. The sea is subsiding in some places. The land is subsiding. It's also rising in some places, but the ocean level is rising. And they measure this with lasers from satellites, and they can do it to within an average of about 1/4 of an inch worldwide. And they have mapped out where it's rising and
Well, this particular article focuses on an island called Ile de Jean-Charles. And it says it will not be the last to move because of climate change.
Yeah, well, there are entire counties in Louisiana.
Well, that's the next sentence. One day it won't be villages thinking of relocation, it will be cities.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and if you want to name a city that's thinking of relocation, try Miami.
Miami, and any city in that area of Florida.
Anyone who thinks we're going to live through the next 50 to 100 years without dramatic change is not paying attention.
Yes. Okay, we have an item coming up
And we got
from
another
Clean
picture.
Technica, and there's the picture already up in front of everybody.
This is, surprise, surprise, Texas.
Yes. What do you got for a
The
title?
Wall Street Journal editorial board's anti-wind diatribe is a swing and a miss. This is kind of a crazy article.
It is.
The Wall Street Journal is a kind of a crazy article.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal editorial board published an op-ed piece based on experience and numbers from 2 improperly installed wind turbines in Massachusetts.
You wouldn't say they cherry-picked them, did you?
No, I don't think so. After a review of the 2 turbines' problems, they drew a conclusion, quote, "This Green New Deal was a bad idea all around," end quote.
Well, I'm really not surprised it was the Wall Street Journal, because that's what they do. I mean, you know, it's Wall Street.
But Tom, people on Wall Street are seeing that they've got to get behind dealing with climate change, because it's going to be dreadful to business. And the Wall Street Journal board should understand that.
Now, let's get out of here before I throw up.
Our next item is from the Sydney Morning Herald.
It certainly is. Energy Australia to turn charities into mini power plants. This is an interesting article.
This is an interesting article. Electricity company. You okay, bub?
Excuse me.
Electricity company Energy Australia is launching a $15 million program to help charities reduce their power bills by installing free solar panels and battery systems, turning them into mini power plants. It will link the individual systems to form a virtual power plant.
This is interesting. They're taking money, they're giving them to charities. The charities are building off-grid sources of energy and storage.
Yep.
And then these guys are putting them onto the grid.
Yeah. And linking them together as a virtual power
We're
plant.
out of the box thinking for sure.
Yes. Now, got more on that, or?
Well, just a takeaway, the program will be funded through the sale of renewable energy certificates to other electricity retailers. So it's really not costing anybody anything.
Yeah, it's saving people money. That's all it's doing. And we can do that. And not only that, but we can do it quickly. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, February 13th. We have a picture of a power plant here.
And
this is the Paradise Power Plant, which
in Kentucky.
In Kentucky, and this is an item from Clean Technica.
Well, there's a picture there of 3 power plants, and well, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
TVA tells Trump and McConnell to take a hike.
Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell both castigated the Tennessee Valley Authority for its move to close 2 coal-fired generating stations, but the TVA said retiring both plants in the next 3 to 5 years will, quote, facilitate TVA's statutory mission to provide reliable power at the lowest system cost, end quote.
Economics.
Economics. But the thing is, it's not just, it's two things that Trump and McConnell are saying we need,
Yeah.
which are reliable power at one, and at a low cost two. And, you know,
Who can argue with that?
well, they're arguing that coal is the cheapest we've got. Coal is actually one of the most expensive now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And, you know.
Well, it's interesting. I'll leave the picture up there because
Yeah.
we're showing three power plants.
Yes.
The Paradise facility came online in 1970
Yes.
with 3 coal-fired units. 2 of them were converted to natural gas in 2017.
Yes.
And the last one is the one we're talking about here.
Right.
It's being closed.
Yeah.
TVA officials described the coal units as having a high forced outage rate. I
Yeah.
don't know what forced outage
It
means.
means the weather shuts them down, or
Weather
something
shuts
like
them
that.
down.
You know, something shuts them down.
It doesn't fit our current and likely future needs.
Yeah.
So Paradise 3 was a gigawatt. It was
In
a
other
good
words,
size one.
They are unreliable. That's the bottom line here. And the problem is the thinking of the people who are wanting to require this is the wind doesn't always blow. Therefore, wind is unreliable. Well, the wind doesn't always blow if you're pointing at one turbine,
Yeah.
or even possibly one entire wind farm. But if the wind is not blowing here, it's blowing there. So you know, they have to change their thinking about this.
Well, TVA claims it had chosen the correct course based on business realities rather than ideological niceties.
Yes,
In other words, it's economics.
it's economics.
17 gigawatts of U.S. coal were retired last year.
Yes,
Okay? It's happening, guys.
it's happening. The coal is
and it's
disappearing.
economics.
And by the way, the projected new resources being added online in the next 2 years, only about 20% of them are natural gas and 0% are coal.
Yeah.
So, you know, 2018 was a big year for natural gas, but it ain't going to happen in the next 2 years. And in the meantime, Wright's Law tells us the cost of power from wind and solar is just going to go down. So natural gas is not, I don't see how.
It's not the answer.
No.
Well, natural gas exploration recently has been very disappointing anyhow.
Yes.
They haven't been finding what they'd expect to find.
Yes. Okay, we are up to an article from etenergyworld.com.
This is an interesting article. 11 EU states already met 2020 renewable energy target, according to Eurostat.
11 of the European Union's 28 members have already achieved a 2020 goal of 20% more of power needs coming from renewable resources. The latest data released by Eurostat shows this. The 2020 target is a stepping stone to a goal of 32% in 2030. And, you know, surprisingly enough, the UK hasn't done it yet.
No, they haven't. Renewables accounted for 8.5% of the energy mix in the EU in 2004, 17.5% in 2017. And it's a little bit more than that now.
Yeah.
The EU is on track to meet its 2020 renewable target, with 11 member states already above their national targets. It singles out Sweden, which had the highest share of renewable energy, with more than half its energy coming from renewable sources in 2017. Most of that, I think, is hydro. I think it is. The targets are part of the bloc's overall drive to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 40% below 1990 levels by 2030, and in line with the Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're doing the right thing.
They're doing, yeah. And the UK has found that it's because of its approaches to renewable energy, the amount of wind power that's being installed has declined dramatically. Onshore wind power, not offshore, but onshore wind power.
Why is that?
They said that they didn't want wind farms to bid in power auctions, and that killed about a third of the
I would say there's something behind this.
Well,
Something's going on there.
there's anti-wind stuff going on in the UK, and now they're saying we've got a law that we have to meet this. And the law says that we, you know, that they have to have well, they're still in the European Union, so
As of today,
as
anyhow.
of today, yeah. But they are giving consideration to changing their rules so that in order to get more onshore wind power.
That would help them, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Okay.
yeah. Well, this is the last item we got. And it's kind of a cute item.
It's
an
my
interesting
favorite for
article.
the week.
Yeah,
Why don't you
let's
put the
get
picture
that
up?
picture up there.
That sign with that little girl, by the way, says "School Strike for Climate" in Swedish.
I can see that. I mean, I can, because the J is pronounced as an I.
That's
so
right.
School strike for
For
climate.
Yeah, there it
Okay?
is.
And that is Greta Thunberg.
Thunberg.
Thunberg,
The
is it?
TH
Yeah, it's not
is-
Thunberg.
it's
That's the
not-
American
yeah.
way of saying it.
Yeah.
So how teenage girls defied skeptics to build a new global climate movement. And this little lady is influential. in this movement.
Influential.
Very
I
much
gotta
so,
tell
yeah.
you, this is. It's
a good article.
It
Very
might be
interesting
hard
article.
for people to read the caption down on the lower left, but this is Greta Thunberg, world leader, and she was invited to Davos, Switzerland, to address I think it was a G20 meeting, where she went in and just laid it on the line. You guys are messing things up. She was telling.
Well, we'll hit that, because
Yeah.
I'm going to read the next thing, and then you're going to read the next one.
Okay.
How teenage girls defied skeptics to build a new global climate movement.
Greta Thunberg's climate activism got her invited from her native Sweden to Davos, Switzerland, where she excoriated a room full of executives, telling them they were to blame for the climate crisis. She is not alone. Young women are rising in many countries.
Well, this is what she told them. I told them that they belong to that group of people who are most responsible. The future of humankind rests in their hands.
Yeah?
Okay, so the takeaway here is a growing ecosystem of student-led climate strikes are crisscrossing Europe and Australia, many of which are being conceived, organized, and executed by teenage girls,
Yes.
leading to a worldwide student strike on March 15th. And there's some impressive pictures in there
Yes, there
of
are.
some of these groups.
Yeah.
They're not screwing around. That's
And-
not 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
When they say 15,000, they mean 15,000.
Yes, and one of the things that's interesting about this is they have met with a lot of opposition. A lot of people in news organizations and so forth have been almost baiting them to try to show that they are operating not on their own, but at the behest of some organization,
Yeah,
because they cannot imagine that anything effective could be done by anyone other than an adult male human being.
That's just what the article says.
And and there she is. You know, that is a person who was invited to address the United Nations. You know, I mean, this is a girl who's got a little bit of gumption. She takes off on
Well,
Friday.
she does. I mean, read the article. There's a lot about her. She's
A lot
quite
of
an
it is about
interesting
her.
little lady.
And she has proved to be a role model at the age of, what, 15?
Something like that. Yeah.
to girls in the Netherlands and girls in Australia. And these strikes are spreading, as the article said.
Well, their goal is the campaigns hope to put climate change on the political agenda for the upcoming European Parliament.
Yeah.
And politicians are too concerned with hard or soft Brexit and are forgetting that the earth is dying.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I
Politicians.
think we have kind of come to the end here.
We have come to the end. We've got our
know
final
those
thing that
guys.
says, have a perfectly lovely Energy Week. Hope you
Good
come
night,
back.
guys.